कामत सर, केकी सर, थैंक यू वेरी मच फॉर जॉइनिंग अस। और जब भी मैं पैनल डिस्कशन चालू करता हूं तो मैं हमेशा ट्राई करता हूं कि कामत सर और केकी सर के राइट साइड में बैठूं। उनके राइट साइड में होना बहुत ज्यादा जरूरी है। क्या अभी हम इंडिया इकोनॉमी के राइट साइड पे हैं कामत सर? क्या आपको लगता है कि ये जो इंडियन इकोनॉमी के हम कह रहे हैं कि द डेकेड बिलोंग्स टू इंडिया एंड एवरीथिंग इज लुकिंग सो गुड, क्या ये सुनहरा पल चलता रहेगा? तो क्या हम इंडियन इकोनॉमी में जो 8% की जीडीपी ग्रोथ देख रहे हैं, क्या यह बनी रह सकती है? क्या आपको लगता है आने वाला कल आज से अच्छा रहेगा और मोमेंटम चालू रहेगा?
जी हाँ, मैं इसलिए कह रहा हूँ कि 8% जो है हम अचीव कर सकते हैं। जीडीपी ग्रोथ होएगा या नहीं देखने के लिए दो चीज टेस्ट करना पड़ेगा। एक, आपको ग्रोथ पाथ है क्या कहते हैं और कितना लंबा है। और मेरे हिसाब से हमारा पाथ जो है काफी लंबा है, जो हम अमृतकाल कहते हैं, 25 साल का ट्रैक जो है, क्योंकि इतना काम करने का है। तो एक तो वो है। दूसरा, आपको ड्राइव है क्या, कंट्री को ड्राइव है क्या? जरूर वो भी ड्राइव है। तो ये दो अगर प्रेजेंट है, कंडीशंस प्रेजेंट हैं, तो आपका ग्रोथ रहेगा। शॉक्स आएंगे, जैसे एक्सटर्नल शॉक्स जो प्रेडिक्ट नहीं कर सकते हैं, पर द पाथ तो है वेरी क्लियर है। 8% सस्टेन ग्रोथ अचीवेबल फॉर अ वेरी लॉन्ग पीरियड ऑफ टाइम।
कामत साहब, हमने एक दूसरे फोरम पे आपसे बात करी थी और आपने कहा था कि 7 से 8% की ग्रोथ तो बनी रहेगी, मगर 10% तक भी ग्रोथ जा सकती है, आपके ही शब्द से। तो क्या आने वाले समय में ग्रोथ और एक्सेलरेट हो सकती है? और आपने बताया फैक्टर्स आर एट प्ले। विच आर दोस फैक्टर्स एट प्ले, मिस्टर कामत?
की फैक्टर्स जो 8 से 10 तक कर सकते हैं, मेरे हिसाब से डिजिटल है। क्योंकि आई डोंट थिंक वी हैव फैक्टर्ड इन डिजिटल का जो इम्पैक्ट है, वो फुल्ली फैक्टर्ड इन नहीं हो गया और इमीडिएटली फैक्टर इन नहीं हो जाएगा। मेरे हिसाब से अगले 4, 5, 7 बरस में डिजिटल विल किक इन एंड वो जो कंट्रीब्यूशन है टू ओवरऑल ग्रोथ विल बी सिग्निफिकेंट। तो उसको आपने जुड़ा तो जो 8 है अभी 10 तक होने का कोई डाउट नहीं है। और ये हिसाब से आप कंपाउंड कीजिए तो आपको पता पड़ेगा कि क्या रेट पे देश की तरक्की होगी।
मिस्टर सर, व्हाट इज योर व्यू फॉर नेक्स्ट 5 years? आर वी इन फॉर एन एक्सेलरेटेड ग्रोथ कर्व?
So, Nikunj, let me put it this way, that I've been working since 1981. And in 43 years of working, I've never been as optimistic about the Indian economy as I am today. And I genuinely mean it. I see so much of interest in India from international investors, domestic investors. We are such an underpenetrated market. Itna penetration kam hai India ke andar. Up mortgages, take a mortgages today are 11% of GDP. Retail credit is about 19% of GDP. So itna scope hai growth ke liye. Or if you look at our demographics, 2/3 of our population is below 35 years. And all these people are now in a stage where they are seeing what is available. Digital, as Mr. Kamath said, has helped tremendously in this process. And people are willing to borrow money, people are willing to spend money, people are willing to consume, and that is what is going to keep the economy growing. So the important thing for us is job creation. As long as we continue creating jobs successfully, to my mind, the economy will grow at upwards of 7% for donkey's years, long, long time. But there are external factors we must remember. We have war going on in Russia for 2 years. We have a war going on in the Middle East region for 1 year. These are not signs you've seen which give you comfort that external factors will not, at some point of time, have some impact on growth.
Mr. Kamath, well, we may argue back and say that, look, things are looking great, but the grain of the truth here is that job creation is a problem. India's per capita income is still below $3,000. If one really looks at the new wave of capex, it is largely coming from the government sector, not the private sector. So do you think those are genuine and visible challenges?
If you look at, I would say, the breakup of growth that will happen, I would say the space that needs to be pushed is infrastructure. So clearly that is going to take a large part of developmental effort. And that is what you have seen in other countries also. Infrastructure is the first driver, and in India that will happen. And that's enormously job accretive. the creation of infrastructure. Second, manufacturing. Manufacturing keeps pace with demand. Manufacturing cannot happen in isolation. And the job creation there also will happen in consonance with the demand for a product and the capacity that you create. And the third part here, as we said, was digital, which will drive all these things. And we, of course, have the traditional drivers of growth, agriculture and what we traditionally have been relying on as growth drivers, the services economy. So to me, the job creation will happen in all these areas. And the question of GDP, to me, is follows, since per capita GDP follows overall growth in GDP. So you do have overall growth in GDP, and then your per capita GDP will increase. So if you grow at 8%, 10%, you should then have a GDP growth, allowing for any population growth that you have. You will have GDP growth, per capita growth, keeping in step with the overall GDP growth. So I think that employment will happen if you keep your eyes on your goal, and that is overall growth. And that will drive the employment agenda.
Mr. Mistry, in last 43 years, what has surprised you in terms of growth and what has disappointed you?
I would say the last 10 years have been extraordinarily strong. Extraordinarily, absolutely extraordinarily. Prior to that, we had a little bit of, ups and downs. The economy was doing very well for some time. Then there was a slowdown. Again, it picked up. So there were ups and downs. But since 2014, we have not seen any down cycle in the economy, notwithstanding the fact that this period of 10 years saw 1.5 odd years of COVID. And despite the impact of COVID, our economy was unimpacted. We didn't have the kind of tearaway inflation that the Western countries saw. RBI was extremely prompt, extremely proactive in terms of intervening in the market, increasing interest rates when necessary, and keeping liquidity under control, which has ensured that we've not had the inflation that the Western countries have had. So I would say last 10 years have been very, very good. What can worry me a little bit is oil. If we were to have some very sharp rise in oil prices, oil goes back to $130, $140 for whatever reason, whether it's Middle East issues or whatever, then that would have some temporary impact on our economy because we are such a large importer of oil, and oil has a big impact on GDP, inflation, current account deficits, and all of that.
Mr. Kamath, you built a business centered around scale, retail, and risk management. Everything in the banking sector is now changing, from the nature of liability to the use of technology. What, to your mind, is one big permanent change which has happened in the banking sector? कौन सा सबसे बड़ा change हुआ है कोविड के बाद?
मेरे हिसाब से दो changes हुए हैं. एक तो customer expectation from the bank, and दूसरा जो technology leap that has happened, उसको banks have internalized it and are using it to serve the customer better. And I did not go into it, but if you were to ask me, mention one area, I think look at the way the payment systems have transformed. Primarily UPI in India, and is today setting a benchmark for the rest of the world. So, and I would expect that this will accelerate the use of technology, and both the customer end and at the bank provider and service provider end, both will accelerate at a pace which we probably have not imagined. I don't think we had imagined the advent of UPI just 3 short years back. We face other changes will happen.
Mr. Mistry, same question to you. The way we bank and the way we will bank will change. एक ज़माना होता था कि आपको ब्रांच के बाहर लंबी लाइन लगानी पड़ती थी, आज हम ब्रांच नहीं जाते हैं. एक ज़माना होता था कि आपको फॉर्म भरने में समय लगता था, अब ऑनलाइन आप कर लेते हैं. अगले 5 साल में बैंकिंग और फाइनेंशियल सेक्टर में कौन सा बड़ा चेंज आ रहा है आपके हिसाब से?
See, contrary to, first of all, I think technology. Technology is changing so fast and so rapidly that I think very few of us can keep pace with the kind of changes which are happening. It's very difficult to predict 5 years from now where the technology will take us. But technology has clearly significantly changed the face of the banking world. Costs can come down under control. Servicing can be a lot better. The kind of information that is available about a customer before you give a loan, that makes it so much easier to turn around the loan and disburse the money that much faster. So what more changes will come about in technology over the next 5 years? Difficult to say. Big question which can always get debated is, do you need branches? Do you not need branches? Should you continue setting up more branches, not set up branches, do everything digitally? I think this time itself will answer. Some banks have followed the regime of reducing the number of branches, not reducing, but reducing the increase in number of branches. And some banks have taken the course of continuing growing branches the same pace as before. I think time will show who's right.
मिस्टर कामत, जो इंडिया का बैंकिंग सेक्टर है उसकी जो नींव थी वो सेविंग्स पर है. इंडियंस सेव अबाउट 25% ऑफ द टोटल अर्निंग्स एंड उसका लार्ज पार्ट बैंकिंग में जाता था. अब वो स्टॉक मार्केट में जा रहा है, अब वो रियल एस्टेट में जा रहा है. तो जो भारत बैंक के जो बैंकिंग सेक्टर की जो फाउंडेशन थी, क्या वह चेंज हो रही है? और अगर ये चेंज होगी तो इसका क्या मतलब हो सकता है?
नहीं, my view is that ultimately money finds its way into some place where it has to be stored. That is the bank. So whether it is bought shares, that money that you paid ultimately goes into a bank, except when it is held back for whatever purposes, and then it is in cash in circulation or so on. So that I don't think is going to change. What we will need is accelerated growth to drive deposits in the banking system and drive demand for loans in the banking system. But there are other changes that are happening. See, if I go back to just my career, somewhere in the middle of that career, and towards when development banks came to an end, all projects were set up on the basis that you give us 70% loans and we will bring in 30% equity. And that equity also was not necessarily from the promoter, it was from the market or underwritten by somebody. So everything was debt dependent. But today, if you see almost any expansion in capacity that is required, except in very heavy industries, are met through cash generation. And particularly this has become true post-COVID because cleanup ho gaya, cash flows improve ho gaya actually, efficiency improvement ho gaya system mein. And after that, with healthy cash flows, corporates are able to meet their incremental needs themselves. So there is a complete change in, I would say, the distribution of how and who borrows compared to, say, 10 years back. So today you could expect that there will be more borrowing going into infrastructure, that also probably through the bond route, not necessarily through the bank route. But there will be more borrowing going through the bank route for retail. And this is a phenomenon that is observed around the world. So the mix of, I would say, the assets of a banking institution will change. But on the liability side, it will have to be the same structure in terms of what is happening. And that will be the systemic money will have to flow into a bank. And if the economy grows at that much faster rate, that much more flow into the banking system.
Mr. Mistry, for those who are watching this show online here, and a lot of our viewers would be watching it later on when it's published on the social media mediums, what would be your advice to somebody who's young and now wants to build a future in finance? Because when you started HDFC Limited and when SAS, associated with the ICICI Bank, India was different. The demand curve was different. The need of the banking system was different. What would be advice to someone who wants to build a future in financials? What should be the start point?
I think first of all, I would say that the future of banking and the future of financial services in India is phenomenal, really, truly phenomenal. Because of the reasons I mentioned, underpenetrated market, huge scope for growth, increasing, growing middle class, people wanting to consume more, people now much more willing to borrow money today than what they were 30, 40 years ago. I remember 40 years ago when we started HDFC, if someone came to our office to take a housing loan, many people would actually feel shy to be seen in our office because they didn't want to be known as someone who's borrowing money. So all that has changed and changed dramatically. So future is phenomenal, but the only advice I would give is whatever you do, please look at it long term. Don't keep short-term goals in mind. Aspire to do something 10 years from now and keep your path to get to that 10 years instead of taking shortcuts and trying to achieve what you can in 10 years to try and do it in 5 years. And second is keep the highest, absolutely the highest level of integrity. It will reward you in the long term. Markets will give you a huge reward if you are seen to be well governed from a governance perspective.
कमत साहब, टेक्नोलॉजी और बैंकिंग और फाइनेंशियल सेक्टर का मिश्रण कहाँ पर हो सकता है? If somebody wants to start young, inspired by your life journey, inspired by Mr. Mistry's life journey, what should be the starting point for someone who wants to, let's say, build a career in the financial or the fintech world?
Today, there are several options. A few years back, there was only one option. That is, you join a bank or any financial institution and you build up your career there. And in that, you leverage your core skill, which is banking skills or financial services skills. But there itself, there is a change today. It's not only just banks or financial institutions. There are fintechs. There are service providers to banking institutions. There are a whole lot of other players where you can then exercise what is your interest and follow that. Apart from that, within the banking or financial services space, the new, I would say, the new opportunity would need equal deployment of both your financial skill and your technology skill. And this is not just at any, officers level or staff level. I would think this will pervade right through to the top. So even the CEO will need to be a technology architect if he or she is to succeed in the role in a financial institution. I think in course of time that is going to be true of almost every enterprise. The CEO will have to be a technology architect in addition to whatever other skills that are brought to the table. And if a young person keeps this in mind and builds those skills, I think you are going to rise far. But if a young person were to think that, I have a degree and I have a professional degree, and that professional degree is good enough to take me right through and build a career, I think that's going to be a challenge. You will have to leverage onto that degree technology and keep the technology refreshed. You may or may not keep your core skill refreshed, but the technology skill will have to be refreshed continuously. And as I can see, at the pace which technology is changing, this young person will have to keep it refreshed, I would say to infinity, as it were, without a stop.
तो आखिरी कुछ सवाल, मुझे पता है आपके लिए काफी मीटिंग्स हैं आगे और अभी इतनी दूर आए, सो थैंक यू वेरी मच. आखिरी सवाल, मिस्त्री साहब, ऐसी कौन सी चीज थी आईसीआईसीआई बैंक के बारे में आपको अच्छी नहीं लगती थी? अरे यार ये कर रहे हैं, हमें भी करना चाहिए, आप हमेशा टीम को बोलते थे?
I think many years ago, 2001, 2002, we never had a practice of having agents, distribution agents. And that practice started with ICICI. And then we copied that practice, we emulated that practice. But I must say that whilst ICICI, HDFC always had strong competition over the years, there never was any feeling of hostility, ever. There was always a feeling of
So you were always good friends?
Everyone, yeah, honestly. And even today I have so many of my friends who are from ICICI, and I'm sure ICICI has many other friends from HDFC. So it's very different from the kind of competitive world that people talk about in the West. It's a very different life.
Which is one idea of HDFC Limited, HDFC Bank, ICICI Bank has ever copied?
But let me also, supplement what Keki said. That's true. We never undercut each other. We never, in a way, tried to, in a way, block any business that was done. And I always thought of, which people don't know, and the younger people certainly don't know. We actually, HDFC was conceptualized and born in front of me. We used to sit in our office where they later on had their office. We had one floor. And on that floor, just across from where I sat was, there were tables, and the young team that conceptualized and set up HDFC under the able guidance of Mr. H.T. Parekh sat in this one. So there is, at least at my level, I can tell you that I did not look at them as competitors. I thought of them as somebody who are there out to succeed, and we wish them well. So your next question was, what is it that...
What is that one idea of ICICI, HDFC Limited, HDFC Bank, ICICI Bank copied?
Yeah, I think there is one thing that which I used to tell the team at ICICI Limited, ICICI Bank, and that is look at the the efficiency ratio of HDFC parent, the cost to income ratio. And that is an unbelievable number. The way they ran the business so efficiently, yet build the book, grow. I don't see any other bank has emulated. So I would say that for us, the benchmark is not a bank. The benchmark is HDFC Limited in terms of what we should do with our cost to income ratio, because we are also predominantly in home loans. We have other banking businesses. So I don't see any reason why it should be different. So that was something that, I think it succeeded to some extent, because people could see that and knew that, this was not going to be tolerated. So we kept costs low.
Did you ever buy a stock of HDFC Limited, and did you ever buy a stock of ICICI Bank?
No, I actually don't deal in too much of scripts, so I can't say that I did buy HDFC Bank stock.
BSc पे आया, BSc के अंदर जब भी इस फ्लोर पर आते तो यादें आती हैं, यादें हमेशा ताज़ी करनी चाहिए. For those who've come for the first time, I've got a lot of my young friends from my office, हमारी research team वाले आए हैं. तो उनको मैं बता रहा था यहाँ पर ट्रेडिंग होती थी. यहाँ पर lot of the young audience associate BSc floor with that very famous OTT series. But trust me, this is a place where trading used to happen. So Keki साहब, जब HDFC Limited list हुआ था, क्या market cap थी उसकी?
I think we started with a paid up capital of 10 crores, and the market cap when I joined in 1981 was a little under 8 crores.
So 8 करोड़ से कम HDFC Limited की market cap थी जब इस फ्लोर पर वो ट्रेड करता था. कामत साहब, ICICI बैंक की क्या market cap थी जब ICICI बैंक को Limited अलग अलग थे?
ICICI Limited जो है, I think was listed from 1955-56 and never skipped a dividend in its history. I don't recollect the exact market cap when we merged. We merged, that is around 2002, but it wasn't a large number. It wasn't a large number.
And today, what is the combined market cap? Any idea of all the subsidiaries and everything put together?
ICICI would be over $100 billion.
$100 billion. What about HDFC Bank now? Everything put together?
About 185 billion.
So 10 करोड़ से 180 बिलियन डॉलर की छलांग HDFC ग्रुप ने लगाई है पिछले 30 सालों में, और ICICI बैंक की भी वही छलांग है. मेरे से लोग पूछ रहे थे, भाई आपके पास क्या है? HDFC का लोन है, ICICI का लोन है. तो मैंने उनको ये जवाब दिया, जी मेरे पास HDFC बैंक का होम लोन है, ICICI बैंक का कार लोन है, LIC का इंश्योरेंस है, और SBI के अंदर मेरा सेविंग अकाउंट है.
Wow.
So that is what India is, and that is what we stand for. I would request before I wrap, just in respect of honor, to stand and give a standing ovation to Mr. Mistry and Mr. Kamath. ये ऐसे दो शख्स हैं जिन्होंने इंडियन बैंकिंग सेक्टर के डायनामिक्स को चेंज करा है. आज इंडियन बैंकिंग सेक्टर जिस कगार पे खड़ा है, इसके ये दो बहुत, मैं बोल सकता हूं, पुरानी जमाने की हम बातें करें तो मैं भी पुरानी पिक्चर का डायल बोलता हूं, ये हमारे इंडियन बैंकिंग सेक्टर के जय और वीरों हैं. थैंक यू वेरी मच.